Jake Morrison stared out the window of his small ship. The stars looked the same as always, cold and distant. He had been flying through space for 20 years, picking up junk and old metal that nobody wanted. It was not the life he had dreamed of as a boy on Earth. The year was 2387. Humans had been part of the big alien group called the Galactic Coalition for over 200 years. But they were not treated well. The aliens saw humans as weak and stupid. They only let humans do the hard, dirty jobs that nobody else wanted to do. Humans cleaned alien toilets, dug in dangerous mines, and carried heavy boxes from one planet to another. Jake's crew was small. There was only him, his pilot Tony Baker, and Dr. Lisa Carter, who studied old alien ruins. They flew around in their ship called New Horizon, looking for old junk to sell. It was not exciting work, but it paid enough to keep them alive. "Jake, you need to see this," Tony called from the front of the ship. His voice sounded worried. Jake walked over to where Tony sat at the controls. On the screen in front of them was a strange signal. It was not like anything they had seen before. "Where is it coming from?" Jake asked. Tony pointed to a spot on the star map. "Over there near that group of rocks floating in space, but Jake, this signal is really old. I mean really, really old." Dr. Carter came over to look. She was a smart woman who knew a lot about old alien history. When she saw the signal on the screen, her face went white. "This can't be right," she said in a quiet voice. "This signal is older than any alien civilization we know about." Jake made a decision. "Let's go look. Maybe we can find something valuable." They flew their ship toward the signal. As they got closer, they saw something that made them all gasp. Hidden between the floating rocks was a huge metal structure. It was bigger than any building Jake had ever seen. It looked very old, but it was still working. "I'm picking up power readings," Tony said. "This thing is still alive." They landed their small ship next to the big structure. Jake, Tony, and Lisa put on their spacesuits and walked outside. The structure had a door, and when they got close to it, the door opened by itself. Inside, the hallways were huge. The lights turned on as they walked. Everything was made of metal that looked new, even though Lisa said it was thousands of years old. "Look at these writings on the wall," Lisa said. She was taking pictures of strange symbols. "I can read some of these languages. They're from alien races that died out long ago." They kept walking deeper into the structure. In one big room, they found computers that were still working. Lisa started reading the alien writing on the screens. "Jake," she said, and her voice was shaking. "These are warning messages. They all say the same thing. The Watchers sleep. Do not wake the guardians of Sol." "Sol?" Jake asked. "That's what aliens call our sun." Tony found another room full of machines. "These look like weapons," he said. "Really big weapons." While Jake's team was exploring the old structure, something else was happening far away. On a planet called HFY, where all the alien leaders met, a human woman named Helen Brooks was having a very bad day. Helen was Earth's ambassador. Her job was to speak for all humans when the aliens made decisions. But the aliens did not listen to her very much. She stood in front of a group of ugly alien creatures. The leader was called Counselor Vexitar. He looked like a giant bug with too many eyes. "The coalition has decided," Vexitar said in his nasty voice. "Earth must give us 40% more humans for work duties." Helen felt angry. "You can't do this. You're already taking too many of our people. Families are being broken apart." Vexitar made a sound like laughing, but it was not funny. "Humans should be grateful. We protect you from the dangers of space. In return, you work for us. This is fair." "Fair?" Helen said. "You treat us like slaves." "You are lucky we let you live," another alien said. This one looked like a lizard with wings. "Humans are weak. You have no strong weapons. You have no smart technology. You should be happy we don't just take your whole planet." Helen wanted to say more, but she knew it would not help. The aliens had made up their minds. Earth would have to give them more people, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Back at the old structure, Jake's team had found something very important. In the deepest room, there was a big chair in front of many computer screens. When Lisa sat in the chair, The computer started talking to her in human English. "Warning," the computer said. "Activation sequence detected. Guardian protocols preparing to initialize." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. Lisa looked at the screens. Her face was very pale. "I think we just turned something on, something that has been sleeping for a very long time." Suddenly, all the screens in the room started flashing. Numbers and symbols ran across them very fast. The whole structure began to shake and hum with power. Far away on Earth, deep under the ocean, something huge began to wake up. In space around Earth's sun, old machines that had been pretending to be rocks started to move. On the moon, hidden, doors opened for the first time in 50,000 years. Jake looked at his friends. "I think we just made a very big mistake." But he was wrong. It was not a mistake. It was the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever. For the first time in thousands of years, Earth's guardians were waking up, and they were not happy about what they found. The aliens who had been treating humans badly were about to learn a very important lesson. Earth was not just another weak planet. It was something much more dangerous than they could ever imagine. And now, after sleeping for so long, it was finally time for the truth to come out. The activation of the ancient structure sent waves of energy across the galaxy. On planets far from Earth, alien scientists watched their instruments go crazy. Old monitoring stations that had been quiet for thousands of years suddenly came to life. The aliens were scared and confused. On the Coalition capital world, General Thexmore looked at the reports coming in. He was a big alien that looked like a metal spider with too many legs. His job was to keep the galaxy safe for the Coalition. "How many stations have activated?" he asked his assistant. "Over 3,000, sir," the assistant replied. "They're spread across half the galaxy. We never knew they existed." Thexmore's metal claws clicked together nervously. "Find out who built them. Find out now." Back on Earth, strange things were happening. In the deepest part of the ocean where humans had never been able to go before, new passages were opening up. Dr. Nathan Price got a call from the Earth government. They wanted him to lead a team to explore these new underwater caves. Nathan was the best at finding old human ruins. He had spent his whole life digging up pieces of the past, but he had never found anything like this. His team took a special underwater ship down to the bottom of the ocean. The water was so deep that the pressure should have crushed their ship. But somehow the water around the new openings was different. It was like something was protecting them. "Look at this," said Kelly Davis, one of Nathan's team members. She pointed to the walls around them. "These aren't natural cave walls. Someone built this." They went deeper into the underwater structure. The walls were covered with pictures and writing. But this writing was not alien. It was human writing, but very, very old. Nathan looked at the pictures on the walls. They showed humans flying through space in huge ships. They showed human cities on distant planets. They showed humans fighting terrible monsters among the stars. "This can't be right," Nathan said. "Humans never had spaceships like this. We were still living in caves when the aliens found us." But the evidence was all around them. Room after room showed the same thing. Humans had once ruled a great empire among the stars. They had controlled thousands of planets. They had built weapons that could destroy whole solar systems. Kelly found a room full of working computers. When she turned them on, they spoke in old human language. "Welcome to Terra Command Central," the computer said. "You have been asleep for 51,743 years." Nathan almost fell over. 50,000 years? That's impossible. The computer continued. The Terran Dominion was the greatest empire in galactic history. Humanity ruled from the center of the galaxy to the outer rim. But the cost of war became too great. The decision was made to enter the long sleep. "What war?" Kelly asked. The computer showed them pictures on its screens. They saw monsters that looked like they were made of darkness itself. These creatures ate planets and stars. They turned whole sections of the galaxy into empty space. "The Devourers," the computer said. They came from outside our galaxy. They wanted to eat everything that lived. The Terran Dominion fought them for 10,000 years. Nathan watched the pictures with growing amazement. He saw human ships the size of moons fighting against the dark creatures. He saw whole planets being used as weapons. He saw the final battle where the humans won, but barely. "We stopped them," the computer said. But the galaxy was badly hurt. Most worlds were empty. Most races were dead. The Terran Dominion could have ruled over ash and ruins. Instead, our leaders chose a different path. The pictures showed something incredible. The human leaders had built huge machines to put their whole race to sleep. They left robot guardians to watch over them while they slept. The plan was to wake up when the galaxy was healthy again. But something went wrong, Nathan said. "Yes," the computer replied. "The alien races that survived learned to fear human power. When they started the Galactic Coalition, they made sure to keep Earth's guardians asleep. They told lies about human history. They made humans think they were weak and stupid. Meanwhile, back on the ancient structure that Jake had found, more secrets were being revealed. Lisa had learned how to use the old computers. What she found made her sick to her stomach. The Coalition leaders knew everything. They knew humans had once ruled the galaxy. They knew about the sleeping guardians. They knew about Earth's true power. The protection they offered to humans was really a prison. "We have to tell people," Lisa said to Jake. "Humans need to know the truth." But Jake was looking at something else on the computer screen. "Lisa, look at this. The sensors are picking up something at the edge of the galaxy." On the screen, they could see dark spots where stars used to be. The spots were growing larger. "What is that?" Tony asked. Lisa read the computer information. Her face went white. "It's them. The Devourers. They're coming back." On Earth, more discovery teams were finding incredible things. The moon was not just a moon. Under its surface was the biggest spaceship factory ever built. Mars was not just a planet. It was a hidden fortress covered with fake rock and dust. Even more amazing, Earth itself was not what it seemed. Deep underground were engines, bigger than cities. The whole planet was actually a giant spaceship disguised as a world. Dr. Price found the control room for all of Earth's hidden systems. The computers there had been waiting 50,000 years for someone to turn them on. "Why did our ancestors hide all this?" Kelly asked. "Because they were tired of war," Nathan replied. "They wanted their children to grow up in peace. They hoped the galaxy would become a better place while humans slept." "Well, it didn't work out that way," Kelly said, bitterly. "The aliens just made us into slaves." Nathan looked at the control panels around him. There were buttons and switches that could wake up the most powerful military force in galactic history. He could turn Earth back into the warship it really was, but should he? On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Helen Brooks was getting some very interesting news. Her assistant ran into her office with a scared look on his face. "Ambassador," he said, "the aliens are panicking. Something has them really scared." Helen looked out her window at the alien city below. She could see alien soldiers running around. Ships were taking off in all directions. "What's happening?" she asked. "Nobody will tell us," her assistant said. "But I heard some of the alien workers talking. They said the old warnings are coming true. They said the sleeping giants are waking up." Helen did not know what that meant, but she could see that the aliens who usually treated humans so badly were now very afraid of something. She was about to find out what. On Earth, Nathan Price made his decision. He put his hand on the main activation switch. "If our ancestors could sleep for 50,000 years to give us a chance at peace," he said, "then we can wake up to protect that peace." He pushed the switch. Across human space, lights that had been dark for millennia began to shine. Hidden bases opened up. Sleeping machines came to life. And in the depths of space, something vast and powerful stretched its mechanical limbs and prepared to defend its children once again. The galaxy was about to remember why it had once feared the name of Terra. General Thexmore was not a patient alien. When he heard about the human machines waking up, he decided to act fast. He gathered the biggest fleet the coalition had ever assembled. Over 2,000 warships jumped through space toward Earth. "We will stop this before it gets out of control," he told his officers. "Humans are weak. Their old machines cannot be that dangerous." He was very wrong. Captain Ryan Phillips commanded Earth's small defense force. His ships were old and weak compared to the alien fleet heading toward them. He had only 50 ships to defend the entire solar system. When he saw 2,000 alien warships appear near Earth, he thought it was the end. "Sir," his communications officer said, "the alien fleet is demanding we surrender immediately. They want control of all the awakened installations." Ryan looked at his small fleet and then at the massive alien armada. "Tell them we decline their offer." The alien ships moved into attack positions around Earth. Ryan prepared to fight and die for his homeworld. But then something incredible happened. The ground on Earth began to shake. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the water started to bubble and steam. Slowly, something enormous rose from the ocean floor. It was a weapon platform the size of a city. Its metal surface gleamed in the sunlight. Along its sides, huge gun barrels pointed toward the alien fleet in space. But that was just the beginning. All across Earth, the land split open along hidden seams. Mountains folded back to reveal weapon systems that had been sleeping under the dirt and rock. The ocean floors opened up and more giant platforms rose to the surface. In space, the moon began to change. Its gray surface cracked and peeled away like old paint. Underneath was gleaming metal. The moon opened up like a flower, showing the biggest spaceship factory anyone had ever seen. Thousands of new ships began flying out of hidden bays. Ryan watched in amazement as his defense force grew from 50 ships to 5,000 ships in just a few minutes. And these new ships were nothing like the old ones. They were bigger, faster, and covered with weapons that looked like they could crack planets. But Earth was not done showing off. Mars, the red planet, started to shake and rumble. The red dust that covered its surface blew away in huge clouds. Underneath the dust was not rock and dirt. It was metal. The entire planet was actually a giant fortress, disguised to look like a normal world. Weapon systems the size of mountains emerged from Mars's surface. All of them pointed at the alien fleet. General Thexmore stared at his screens in shock. "This is impossible," he whispered. His assistant, an alien that looked like a floating jellyfish, was shaking with fear. "Sir, our sensors can't even measure the power of those weapons. They're beyond anything in our technology." On Earth, Dr. Nathan Price and his team watched from the control room as their planet revealed its true nature. The computers around them came alive with information. "Terra, defense grid is now online," the main computer announced. "All Guardian systems activated. Threat assessment complete. Recommendation: demonstrate minimal force to encourage immediate withdrawal." "Minimal force?" Kelly asked. "What does that mean?" They got their answer a few seconds later. One of the huge weapon platforms that had risen from the ocean fired a single shot. The energy beam was so bright it lit up the sky like a second sun. It reached into space and touched one of the alien warships. The ship simply disappeared, not destroyed or blown apart. It just vanished completely, along with 20 other ships that had been near it. The message was clear. Earth had fired at the lowest possible power setting, and it had erased 21 warships like they were made of paper. "This is Terra Command," Ryan broadcast to the alien fleet. "You have 30 minutes to leave our space. This is your only warning." General Thexmore was a warrior, but he was not stupid. He had seen what one shot from Earth could do. He did not want to see what would happen if Earth fired at full power. But before he could give the order to retreat, one of his ship captains panicked and fired at Earth. The energy blast from the alien weapon was powerful enough to destroy a city. It struck Earth's surface and then just stopped. Blue shields flickered around the planet, absorbing the attack completely. In response, one of the platforms on Mars turned toward the alien fleet. It charged up slowly, giving them time to understand what was about to happen. "All ships retreat," Thexmore screamed. "Retreat now." But it was too late. The weapon on Mars fired. The beam that came from the red planet was bigger than most spaceships. It swept across the alien fleet like a giant sword made of light. Every ship it touched simply ceased to exist. In 10 seconds, General Thexmore lost half his fleet. The surviving alien ships jumped away as fast as they could, leaving the solar system far behind. On Earth, Captain Ryan Phillips found himself in command of the most powerful military force in the galaxy. New ships were still coming, out of the moon's hidden factories. Each one was crewed by humans who had volunteered to learn how to use their ancestors' technology. One of these new ships was given to Captain Lisa Morgan, a former cargo pilot who had always dreamed of commanding a real warship. Her ship was called Awakening Dawn, and it was bigger than anything she had ever imagined. "Ma'am," her new crew told her, "we're receiving reports from human colonies all across the galaxy. They're asking for help." Lisa looked at the star maps on her ship's computers. Everywhere humans lived, they were treated badly by aliens. They worked in dangerous mines, cleaned alien toilets, and were bought and sold like property. "Not anymore," Lisa said. "Send a message to all human colonies. Tell them help is coming." Across the galaxy, the awakening of Earth's guardians was causing chaos. On the Coalition capital world, the alien leaders were meeting in emergency session. "How did we not know?" demanded Counselor Vextar. "How did we not know humans had this kind of power?" Ambassador Helen Brooke stood in the middle of the alien council chamber. For the first time in her life, the aliens were listening to her carefully. "My government has new terms for our relationship with the Coalition," she said calmly. "Terms?" Vextar sputtered. "You cannot make demands. You are the weak species. You are the ones we protect." Helen smiled. It was not a nice smile. "I think recent events have shown that we don't need your protection. In fact, I think you need ours." On the screens around the council chamber, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. Human guardian ships were appearing at every human colony. The aliens who had been mistreating humans were finding themselves face to face with technology they could not understand or fight. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Sergeant Tony Baker led a group of human workers in a revolt against their alien overseers. When the Guardian ship New Liberty arrived in orbit, the alien guards who had beaten and starved humans for years suddenly became very polite. "Please," begged the chief alien overseer, a creature that looked like a giant cockroach. "We were just following Coalition orders. We didn't mean any harm." Tony looked at the alien who had personally killed 3 of his friends for working too slowly. "Sure you didn't. Pack your things. You're leaving." Similar scenes were happening on hundreds of worlds. Humans who had been slaves yesterday were free today, and they had the most powerful military in the galaxy protecting them. But Dr. Lisa Carter, still working on the ancient structure that had started everything, made a discovery that changed everything again. Deep in the computer files she found records of the war against the Devourers. The enemy had not been destroyed. They had only been pushed back to the edge of the galaxy. And according to the sensors, they were returning. "Jake," she called urgently. "Look at this. The long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures at the galactic rim, the same signatures from the old war records." Jake looked at the screen and felt his blood turn cold. "How long before they get here?" Lisa checked the computer calculations. "At their current speed, maybe 6 months. And Jake? There are a lot more of them this time." Jake realized that waking up Earth's guardians had solved one problem but created a much bigger one. Humanity now had the power to defend itself against the aliens. But could they defend the entire galaxy against an enemy that ate stars? He was about to find out. The news about the returning Devourers spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On every world, aliens and humans watched their sky sensors with growing fear. The outer rim of the galaxy was going dark, one star system at a time. Captain Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of her guardian ship, watching reports come in from the edge of space. Each report was worse than the last. "The Vega system just went dark," her communications officer reported. "That's 12 billion people gone." "How long until they reach the inner systems?" Lisa asked. "At their current speed, maybe 4 months," came the reply. Lisa felt sick. The Devourers moved through space like a plague, eating everything in their path. Stars, planets, entire civilizations vanished as if they had never existed. On Earth, Dr. Nathan Price worked day and night with the awakened computer systems. The ancient records told a terrifying story. The last war against the Devourers had lasted 10,000 years and nearly destroyed the galaxy. Even with all of humanity's power, they had barely won. But we did win, Nathan told his team. The records show something called Stellar Requiem. It's a weapon system built into the IQD Galactic core itself. Kelly Davis looked at the technical drawings on the screen. It's massive. The weapon uses the energy of the central black hole to create some kind of barrier. But look at these power requirements. Nathan studied the numbers. They were incredible. It needs energy from every Guardian ship in the galaxy, all firing at the same time. And it needs help from other species too. You mean we have to work with the aliens, Con? Kelly asked. We have to work with everyone, Nathan replied. Even with all our technology, we can't do this alone. This news was not popular with many humans. On colony worlds across the galaxy, humans who had been treated like slaves for centuries did not want to help their former masters. On the industrial world of New Detroit, human workers had taken control of the factories that had once belonged to alien corporations. When Guardian ships arrived with orders to prepare for the coming war, the workers were not interested. Why should we help them? Asked Foreman Jim Patterson. The aliens never helped us when we were dying in their mines. Captain Ryan Phillips, now commanding the entire Guardian fleet, had to address these concerns. He broadcast a message to all human colonies. I understand your anger, he said. I've felt it too. But the Devourers don't care if you're human or alien. They eat everything. If we don't stop them, there won't be anyone left to be angry at. Meanwhile, General Thexmore was having his own problems. Many coalition species refused to believe that humans were now their protectors. The proud Krillian Empire, in particular, saw working with humans as an insult. We ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, Thexmore told his war council. We will not bow to these primitive humans. Admiral Kexval, his second in command, agreed. Our scouts report that the human home system has powerful defenses. But it's still just one system. If we gather our entire military and strike quickly, we can capture Earth before they can respond. It was a terrible mistake. The Krillian Empire assembled the largest invasion fleet in their history. 5,000 warships, each one the size of a city, jumped into the solar system. They expected to overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. What they found instead was a solar system that had transformed into the ultimate fortress. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was no longer just floating rocks. Each asteroid was now a weapon platform, disguised but ready for war. The gas giant planets had shed their outer atmospheres, revealing massive shipyards hidden underneath. Even the sun itself had changed. Ancient machines orbited it, drawing power directly from the star's nuclear fire. Captain Phillips watched the Krillian fleet approach from his command ship near Earth. He had tried to warn them, but they had not listened. Sir, his tactical officer said, the Krillian fleet is assuming attack formation. They're targeting major population centers. Phillips nodded sadly. All Guardian ships, execute Defensive Protocol 7. Show them what real power looks like. The UIA response was immediate and overwhelming. Weapon platforms hidden throughout the solar system opened fire at once. Beams of energy that made lightning look dim reached out toward the Krillian ships. Each shot was carefully aimed to disable rather than destroy, but the effect was devastating. In 30 seconds, the entire Krillian invasion fleet was drifting helpless in space, their weapons and engines completely destroyed. General Thexmore found himself trapped on his powerless flagship, watching Guardian ships surround his fleet. This is Captain Phillips of the Terra Defense Force, came a voice over the radio. General Thexmore, you will surrender immediately, or we will be forced to take stronger action. Thexmore looked at his dead control panels and his frightened crew. His mighty empire had been defeated in half a minute. I surrender, he said quietly. The Guardian ships moved in to capture the Krillian fleet, but they were careful not to hurt the alien crews. As prisoners were brought aboard human ships, many aliens were surprised by how well they were treated. "Why are you being kind to us?" asked one Krillian officer. "We came to conquer your world." Sergeant Tony Baker, now commanding a Guardian Marine unit, shrugged. "Because we're going to need your help to fight the real enemy. And because that's what good people do." While the humans were dealing with the Krillian invasion, the Devourers continued their advance. Scout ships reported that entire sectors of the galaxy were now empty space. The creatures were moving faster than before, as if they were hungry after their long absence. Dr. Lisa Carter, working with the ancient computer systems, made a disturbing discovery. "The Devourers aren't just eating randomly," she told Jake Morrison. "They're heading straight for the galactic core. If they reach the central black hole, they can use its energy to spread to other galaxies." Jake felt cold. "How long do we have?" 2 months, maybe less. The time for preparation was running out. Captain Morgan began coordinating with Guardian ships across the galaxy, positioning them according to the ancient battle plans. But there were not enough Guardian ships to cover all the required positions. They needed help from the Coalition species. Ambassador Helen Brooks found herself in the strange position of negotiating with aliens who now feared humanity's power. The Coalition Council chamber was very different from her last visit. The alien leaders listened carefully to every word she said. "The weapon system requires precise positioning," she explained. "Guardian ships will provide the primary power, but we need Coalition vessels to fill the gaps in the network." Counselor Vextar, the bug-like alien who had once treated humans so badly, spoke carefully. "And if we refuse?" Helen's expression was grim. "Then we all die when the Devourers reach the core worlds. This isn't about politics anymore. It's about survival." One by one, the Coalition species agreed to join the defense network. Some, like the peaceful Seraphim, volunteered immediately. Others, like the remaining Krillian forces, only agreed when they saw more footage of the advancing darkness. But not everyone was willing to cooperate. Small groups of alien extremists, led by species that had lost power when humans awakened, began attacking Guardian supply lines. They seemed to believe that letting the Devourers win was better than accepting human leadership. These attacks forced Captain Phillips to divide his forces. While most Guardian ships prepared for the final battle, others had to hunt down alien terrorists who were sabotaging the defense effort. On the former Krillian capital world, General Thexamore was released from custody to help coordinate his people's part in the defense network. He worked alongside human officers who treated him with respect, despite his recent attempt to conquer Earth. "I do not understand you humans," he told Captain Morgan during one planning session. "We tried to destroy you, yet you treat us as allies." Morgan looked up from the tactical displays. "Because that's what we need to be now. The old wars are over. Either we work together, or we all become food for monsters." As the final preparations continued, long-range sensors brought increasingly bad news. The Devourers had consumed over half the galaxy's outer rim. Refugee ships filled with survivors fled toward the core worlds, bringing with them stories of planets being eaten alive. Time was running out. In just a few weeks, the galaxy would face its greatest test. And humanity, the species that had once been considered too weak to matter, would have to lead the fight to save everyone. The Devourers were coming and they were hungry. But this time, the galaxy would not face them unprepared. The Devourer vanguard reached the middle sections of the galaxy like a wave of darkness. Wherever they passed, stars simply went out. Planets vanished. Entire solar systems became empty space, as if they had never existed at all. Captain Lisa Morgan watched the tactical displays from her command ship. The enemy was moving faster than the ancient records had predicted. What should have taken months was happening in weeks. "How many refugee ships are we tracking?" she asked her crew. "Over 10,000, came the reply. "Every species in the galaxy is running toward the core worlds." The sight was heartbreaking. Proud alien civilizations that had ruled for thousands of years were now fleeing for their lives. Their most advanced warships looked like toys compared to the creatures chasing them. On Earth, Dr. Nathan Price worked frantically with the awakened computer systems. The Stellar Requiem weapon was almost ready, but coordinating it required perfect timing from ships spread across the entire galaxy. "The power network is coming online," he reported to Captain Phillips. "But we're still missing coverage in sectors 7 through 12. "The Krillian ships are moving to fill those positions," Phillips replied. "General Thexmore is keeping his word." It was strange how the crisis had changed everything. Aliens who had hated humans now fought alongside them. Humans who had every reason to seek revenge instead worked to save their former oppressors. But not everyone had learned to cooperate. Admiral Kexaval, the Krillian officer who had planned the attack on Earth, escaped from custody with a group of extremist followers. They believed that dying with honor was better than accepting human leadership. "If the galaxy must end," Kexval broadcast to his supporters, "let it end with aliens in command, not these primitive humans." His rebel fleet attacked Guardian supply convoys heading toward the front lines. The timing could not have been worse. Every ship was needed for the final defense, but Captain Phillips had to send forces to stop the rebels. Sergeant Tony Baker led a marine assault on Kexval's flagship. The fighting was brutal but quick. Human soldiers using technology that their ancestors had perfected 50,000 years ago were simply superior to anything the aliens could field. "It's over, Admiral," Tony said as he cornered Kexaval on his own bridge. "Your people need you to help save the galaxy, not destroy it." Kexaval snarled at him. "I will not take orders from humans. We are the superior race." Tony looked at the alien who was willing to let everyone die because of his pride. "No," he said quietly. "You're not. And that's why you're losing." While the rebels were being defeated, the main Devourer fleet reached the core systems. They moved through space like living nightmares, consuming everything in their path. Coalition worlds that had existed for millennia were eaten in minutes. The creatures were not just destroyers. They were intelligent, adapting their tactics as they encountered resistance. When Guardian ships fought them in open space, the Devourers learned to avoid direct confrontation. Instead, they struck at refugee ships and undefended colonies. Dr. Lisa Carter, monitoring the enemy from the ancient command station, made a chilling discovery. "They're not just eating randomly," she told Jake Morrison. "They're trying to prevent us from charging the weapon. They know what we're planning." Jake felt his blood turn cold. How is that possible? The computer records mention this. The Devourers have a kind of group mind. What one learns, they all know. They remember the last war. This changed everything. The element of surprise was gone. The enemy knew about Stellar Requiem and was actively trying to stop it. Captain Phillips made a difficult decision. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, they would have to fire the weapon while the Devourers were still advancing. It was more dangerous, but it was their only chance. "All Guardian ships begin charging sequence," he broadcast across the galaxy. "This is it. Everything depends on the next few minutes." Across hundreds of star systems, Guardian vessels began, drawing power from their cores. The energy buildup was so intense that it could be detected from thousands of light years away. Every human felt it somehow, a connection to their species' ancient heritage. The Devourers sensed it too. They abandoned their careful advance and rushed toward the core worlds, trying to disrupt the weapon before it could fire. The final battle began in the space around the galactic center. Guardian ships fought desperately to protect the charging sequence while Devourers swarmed around them like angry insects. Captain Morgan found her ship surrounded by 3 of the creatures. They were horrible to look at, beings that seemed to be made of living darkness with too many teeth and claws. "Maintain position," she ordered her crew as the monsters attacked. "We have to hold the line." Her ship's weapons, powered by technology that could crack planets, barely scratched the Devourers, but they held their position, taking terrible damage to keep the charging sequence running. All across the galaxy, similar battles raged. Human ships fought alongside alien vessels, former enemies united against a threat that would destroy them all. On the Krillian heavy cruiser Iron Talon, General Thexmore commanded his remaining forces with grim determination. His ship was badly damaged, but he kept it in position. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a message from the human command ship. They're asking if we need assistance." Thexmore almost laughed. "Tell them we're fine. Tell them the Krillian Empire keeps its promises." As the battle reached its peak, Dr. Price initiated the final sequence. Deep in the galactic core, ancient machines that had slept for 50,000 years came to life. They reached into the central black hole and began drawing out its incredible energy. "Stellar Requiem is charging," he announced. 30 seconds to firing. But the Devourers made one last desperate attack. A massive group of them broke through the Guardian lines and headed straight for Earth itself. If they could destroy the planet that controlled the weapon, they could stop the firing sequence. Captain Phillips watched them come with calm determination. Earth's defenses had grown beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. But this would be their ultimate test. "All planetary defense systems online," he ordered. "Show them what Terra can do." The weapon platforms that had risen from Earth's oceans opened fire with everything they had. The moon's hidden factories launched every ship they could build. Mars revealed weapons that had never been used in 50,000 years. The space around Earth became a storm of energy and metal. Devourers died by the hundreds, but more kept coming. Just when it seemed they might break through, something incredible happened. Refugee ships from across the galaxy, civilian vessels with no weapons, moved to block the Devourer advance. Aliens who had spent their lives running from danger chose to fight for the world that was trying to save them. "This is the Seraphim transport. Peacebringer," came a voice over the radio. "We stand with Terra." Zephyrian cargo hauler. Star. Wind reporting. "We stand with Terra." Krillian medical ship Hope's Light. "We stand with Terra." Hundreds of ships, thousands of species, all coming together to protect the world that had once been their enemy. The Stellar Requiem fired. The weapon did not just destroy the Devourers, it changed the very structure of space around the galaxy, creating barriers that would prevent their return from whatever dark dimension had spawned them. The energy release was visible from other galaxies, a beacon announcing that this region of space was under the protection of Terra's children. When the light faded, the Devourers were gone. Not just defeated, but completely erased from existence. The galaxy was safe. In the aftermath, everything changed. The coalition dissolved, replaced by the Terran Protectorate, a federation where membership was voluntary and based on respect rather than fear. Ambassador Helen Brooks, now serving as the first Galactic Chancellor, addressed the new federation from Earth's restored capital. "We slept so that you might grow," she said to representatives from 1,000 worlds. "We woke so that all might live free. This is our promise. No species shall stand alone against the darkness." The old hatreds were not forgotten overnight, but they began to heal. Humans who had been slaves became teachers, sharing their ancestors' knowledge with species that had once oppressed them. Aliens who had ruled through fear learned to lead through cooperation. Jake Morrison, now Admiral of the Outer Rim Fleet, stood on the bridge of a massive exploration vessel. Around him, human and alien crew members worked together, preparing for humanity's next great mission. They would carry the light of civilization to distant galaxies, seeking new life and new friends among the stars. The galaxy had learned that strength came not from domination, but from unity. Behind them, Earth continued its eternal watch. The blue and green world that had once been hidden now stood proud as the guardian of galactic peace. Its weapons were still there, ready to defend all who chose to stand against the darkness. The stars no longer trembled with fear. They shone with hope, knowing that Terra's children would always be there to protect them from whatever monsters lurked in the void between worlds. And in the depths of space, new signals were already being detected. Other galaxies, other civilizations calling for help against threats they could not face alone. The Guardians were awake, and their work was just beginning.